Get ready for a race full of controversies. Max Verstappen is in the eye of the storm after his recent explosive statements. But is he crossing the line between confidence and arrogance? And what about Lewis Hamilton's criticism on how a true champion should behave? Today, we are going to dive deep into this battle both on and off the track. In this video, we will analyze Verstappen's bombastic statements, Red Bull's reaction, and the differing opinions in the F1 world. Is Verstappen going too far with his criticism of the team? Or is this defiant attitude exactly what a champion needs to have? Let's discuss behavior, ethics, and the true meaning of being a world champion. Subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. Let's start with the war of words between the two champions. Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time champion, didn't hold back in criticizing Verstappen's behavior after the Hungarian GP. According to Lewis, a world champion should act like a team leader and not behave the way Max did that weekend. But what exactly did Hamilton mean by that? Well, he made it clear that a champion should remember they are part of a larger team and not just a lone driver. Lewis argued that Max's behavior, especially his public criticism of Red Bull, doesn't align with what is expected of a three-time world champion. And what was Verstappen's response? Well, let's just say he wasn't too happy with the criticism. Max fired back by saying that if people don't like his language, they can simply turn down the volume. He argued that his critical and straightforward approach has worked well for the team so far, and he doesn't plan to change it. But is Verstappen right to maintain this stance, or is Hamilton correct in suggesting a more diplomatic approach? It's a complicated issue, isn't it? Let's take a look at another recent controversy involving the Dutch driver. Recently, rumors surfaced that Red Bull had banned Verstappen from participating in simulator races during GP weekends. It all started after the Hungarian GP when Max stayed up until 3 a.m., sim racing before the race. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's advisor, even said that the team had agreed Max would no longer participate in these late-night simulator sessions. But did our three-time world champion comply with this decision? Well, the answer is a resounding no. Verstappen was adamant that there is no such ban. He said, "I've already won 3 world championships. I think I know very well what I can and cannot do." And he didn't stop there. Max also taunted his critics by reminding them that in Imola, he also stayed up late playing the simulator and he won the race the next day. Do these late-night simulator sessions really affect Max's performance on the real track? Or is this just another storm in a teacup? And speaking of storms, we can't deny that Max Verstappen is an exceptional driver, but his recent statements have caused quite a stir in the paddock. During the Hungarian GP, we heard Verstappen swearing on the radio, openly criticizing the team's strategy. This raises an interesting question. How far can a driver go with their public criticism? Is Verstappen crossing a line by exposing the team's problems so openly? Or is this brutal honesty exactly what a championship-winning team needs to stay on top? And there's more. Does this behavior change when the car is not the fastest on the grid? Some fans have been questioning whether Verstappen would be as dominant without Red Bull's fastest car. Are we seeing the real Max now that McLaren is dominating, Mercedes is bouncing back, and Hamilton is back on the podium? These are tough but important questions. After all, what really makes a champion? Is it the car, the driver's skill, or perhaps a combination of both with a dash of attitude? Now let's make an interesting comparison. On one side, we have Verstappen with his direct and sometimes explosive approach. On the other, we have Hamilton, known for his more diplomatic and reflective stance. When things go wrong, Verstappen doesn't hesitate to express his frustration publicly. We've seen this many times on the radio and in post-race interviews. Hamilton, on the other hand, tends to be more restrained, often praising his team even during tough times. But which approach is more effective? Max's frankness might motivate the team to improve quickly, but it can also create tensions. Lewis's diplomacy might maintain team harmony, but is it sometimes necessary to shake things up to provoke change? And we can't forget, both are multiple world champions. This leads us to an intriguing question. Is there really a right way to act as a champion? What do you think? Who's right in this story? Is there a middle ground between Verstappen's approach and Hamilton's, or should each driver find their own style of leadership? Think about this. If you were a team principal, which type of driver would you prefer? The blunt critic or the conciliatory diplomat? It's a tough decision, isn't it? But before you decide, let's move on to another crucial point in this discussion. We can't talk about champions without touching on this thorny issue. How much of a driver's success is due to the car and how much to their skill? Verstappen has dominated the recent seasons with the powerful RB19, but what happens when the car isn't as superior? In the Hungarian GP, we saw a more vulnerable Max, finishing in 5th place and struggling to overtake. This makes us question, what weighs more, the driver's talent or the engineering behind the car? Would Verstappen be as dominant in a less competitive car? Or would his skill shine even with inferior equipment? The truth is, in F1, car and driver form an inseparable partnership. A great driver can extract the maximum from a good car, but even the best driver in the world will struggle with a bad car. So, what do you think? What truly defines a champion in F1? Is it the ability to dominate when you have the best car, or is it the skill to get results even in adverse conditions? Hey everyone, we've reached the end of our quick lap around the paddock. But just like in an exciting race, the discussions are far from over. We've seen Verstappen and Hamilton, two titans of the sport, with completely different approaches to what it means to be a champion. Max with his brutal honesty, and Hamilton with his calculated diplomacy. Two styles, two paths to the top. But in the end, what truly defines a champion? Is it the pure driving skill? The ability to extract the maximum from a machine? Or perhaps it's the way they handle pressure, both on and off the track? The truth is, there's no single answer. Each driver, each champion, writes their own story. And it's this diversity that makes Formula One so fascinating. Verstappen and Hamilton show us that there are different ways to lead, to win, and to inspire. And who knows? Maybe the true champion is the one who can adapt their style according to the circumstances, whether with a dominant car or fighting to climb up the grid. One thing is certain. As long as we have passionate drivers, dedicated teams, and fans like you, F1 will continue to be the stage for the greatest stories in motorsport. And you, what do you think? What's your definition of a true champion? Leave your opinion in the comments. Let's keep this debate going. Don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any details from the world of F1. Until the next race, folks.